Hi, Michael.
Hello, Steve.
How are you?
Hello, everyone. Okay. Yeah. Jersey summer.
Hmm?
Jersey summer.
Jersey Summit, right.
That's weird. Whoa. Very strange.
Everybody's a comedian. I like that.
I'll
Don't
turn
jump.
that- I'll turn
Don't
that
jump.
Let's stop that thing.
So, do we have, is Karen here yet?
I'm here.
Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hi. Do we have, should we start?
1 second.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Claudia, is the court reporter with us?
Yes, I'm trying to move her over to
Okay, great.
panelists.
Okay.
Hello, this is the court reporter. I am here.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Okay. Claudia, ready? Okay. Let's begin. This is the regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on 22 July 2020 at 7:30 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, Frentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton on July 10, 2020. It has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19 coronavirus, note that during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, and Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on May 6, 2020. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website and ought to be maintained throughout the year, and by transmitting a copy of same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, Trentonian, Comcast Media, and by filing a copy thereof with the clerk of Princeton. Notices have been placed on all window doors of the municipal complex.
Mr. Cohen,
Present.
Ms. Coulson,
Here.
Mr. Davidge,
Present.
Mr. Floyd,
Present.
Mrs. Shriver,
Here.
Mr. Tannenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Valvanis,
Here.
Ms. Chen,
Here.
Mr. Stein. Thank you.
We have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first order of business this evening are the minutes of May 27, 2020. They were in the packets presented to the board. Does anybody have any questions or corrections or notations of any sort? If not, if somebody'd like to make a motion.
I move approval. Michael Floyd.
I'll second it. Eve Colson.
Claudia?
Mr. Cohen,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidge,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mrs. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Tannenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Valvanis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The first case this evening will be case number Z 2020-824, 374 Cherry Hill Road, block 3901, lot 14, in the RA zone. Is the applicant here this evening?
Steve, although the noticing is in order, the applicant has asked if we could take jurisdiction tonight and carry it to the August 26th meeting. They have some issues they still have to resolve. And by announcing the date to which it's carried, they will not need to renotice then.
Okay, so that'll be the 26th.
Correct.
Do we need to do and take any action other than what we've just said?
I guess if anybody has an issue with that, speak up. If not, then it will be carried.
Okay, let's make a note here. Okay. Our next case is C-1919-792, 229 Pretty Brook Road, block 3501, lots 6 and 7 in the R1 zone.
The noticing is in order and the board has jurisdiction to hear the application.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, Archie Reed, upper left-hand part of my screen,
Okay,
the attorney representing the applicant. I see that several of my witnesses are on. Not all have gathered yet. Some may have been not quite, might have been relying on the fact that we were second on the agenda, but we have plenty of people to start with.
Who else do you need on the, to be brought over to panelists?
We had Jamie Herring and Steve Forden, 2 club members. I just don't see their names or faces on my screen. Kathy Knight is here. James Kyle is, there's Frank Falcone, and Lindsay Forden is here now. And she is, I mean, we'll start, and as they come on, if that's how you'd like to proceed.
If you're comfortable with it, we.
I am, yes.
start.
We'll, okay, Archie Reed, attorney of New Jersey, representing the applicant, Pretty Brook Club, Tennis Club. We are here on a bifurcated variance application. There are several D variances that we need to acquire. As you probably have experienced many times, the question is, should you do everything at once, or should you get your use and other variances so that you know that when you spend a lot more money on your engineering, it will be worthwhile? So we are here on the first half of a bifurcated variance application. We put in our notice so that the public would know that this is not going to allow us to undertake the construction. That will require a site plan, which will be back before you. So if there are physical issues that you have questions about, you can certainly ask them now. I believe we provided you with adequate physical and demonstrative evidence to let you make a decision on the variances without having all of the details of the physical aspects of the project. I have Kathy Knight here. She is the project manager for the club and the architect for the club. She's going to give a brief introduction of what the club is trying to accomplish, and then we'll move on from there and see who has come aboard. Kathy, can you hear me?
Minute. Well,
Oh,
hang
sure.
on 1 second, please. Hold
Yes.
on a second. Karen, do you want to swear in the witnesses?
I do. If everyone could please state their name on the record now, who's being sworn in at this time? I know we have Kathy Knight. Who
We'll
else do
start
we
with
have?
Kathy.
Yeah, Catherine Knight.
Jamie.
Jamie Herring.
Jamie Herring. Herring.
Mhm.
I guess he's on. Stephen Forden. Stephen? He is speaking.
Keep your
without-
mode muted.
I'm here,
There
Stephen
you go.
Forden.
Frank Falcone.
Okay.
Your regular players. Jim Kyle.
Evening, everybody.
Anybody else?
I think that's the roster.
Okay, then if all of you would raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
do.
Thank you.
Derek, would you like to read your memo first?
Sure.
Derek, let me swear you in. Just, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
As Archie indicated, the Pretty Brook Tennis Club is here for a bifurcated use variance for D2, D4, and several bulk variances to permit the expansion of the Pretty Brook Tennis Club. Site's located at 229 Pretty Brook Road. Contains 4.46 acres and it's zoned in the R1 zone. The site is the home of the club. It contains a clubhouse, exterior tennis courts, pool, and pavilion, 2 platform tennis courts, 2 indoor squash courts, and a gravel area, parking area, and a pond. Site's located on the north side of Pretty Brook Road between Grassmere Way and Coniston Court. And the site's bordered to the east, northwest, and south by open space, and to the northeast by athletic fields for Princeton Day School, and to the west is a single-family home. A little history, the applicant applied for a bifurcated use variance in 1999, seeking a D1 relief for a non-permitted use and a D4 floor area ratio to permit the construction of an indoor squash and tennis facility. During the course of the hearings, the applicant withdrew its proposal for the additional indoor tennis courts, and the indoor squash court was approved and constructed adjacent to the existing indoor tennis court located at the rear of the property. The current plan involves seeking approval for the construction of an 8,600 square foot 1-story building consisting of additional indoor tennis courts and squash courts. The existing use is considered a legal non-conforming use. It's a residential zone, and residential use is the only permitted use. They are seeking a D2 use, which controls the expansion or increase in the intensity of the size of a non-conforming use. The proposed addition of the indoor tennis and squash courts is considered an expansion of a non-conforming use. And they're also seeking a D4 variance for FAR. The floor area ratio of 13.67 exceeds the maximum floor area ratio of 10% permitted for the R1 zone. And they have several bulk variances in impervious coverage, whereas the maximum permitted is 14%, the proposed is 47.7%. A slight building height variance, maximum permitted is 35 feet and proposed is 35.87 feet. They have a pre-existing parking non-compliance. They're seeking variance relief again for that, for the expansion of the tennis courts indoors. The requirement's 132 spaces. The proposed is 38. And it requires, the ordinance 10B 286 requires that parking lots be paved with macadam. The applicant would like to leave the existing gravel lot as it is. And there's also a loading space required, none is provided, and the parking area requires screening and none is provided. These are all pretty much existing conditions. It's a use variance, so as you're aware, the use variance should be considered to see if it can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and that it will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. The applicant should demonstrate special reasons for granting the variance as well as address the negative criteria. That's a quick synopsis. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them. Thank you.
Right, shall we proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. Kathy Knight, as I said, is both the project manager for the club and the architect. Her first set of testimony will not necessarily be expert testimony, but in case anyone has an immediate question, could we have her qualify herself as an architect for expert testimony, please?
Sure.
Would you address that, Karen, or do you want me to?
Well, I can, Ms. Knight.
I just don't know what your procedures are. All right, Kathy, would you?
Normally, we would have the applicant's attorney
Okay.
go through her credentials.
Very good. Okay, Kathy, would you give us a brief rundown of your credentials as a professional architect, please?
Yes, I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And I own my own practice in Princeton and have been in practice in this town for many years, practicing as an architect.
Okay. I would accept you. I know your work and I'm,
Thank you, Steve.
you're welcome.
All right, Kathy, if you would give a brief overview of what we're seeking and some of the whys, but we'll get into the whys later on as well. But I think you wanted to give a general overview to the board.
Right. I was going to start with an overview as the chair of a capital projects committee and past president of the club. So I was going to, Claudia, if I'm able to share my screen, just give an overview of the site to start with, and I will pass it on to other people and come back later for a review of the details of the drawings, the plans and the elevations. Am I able to share my screen? Because it looks, oh yeah, great. No idea how that's going to work.
This is my first COVID meeting. Don't know all the protocols. If I suddenly get up and go to the icebox for a beer, it's not any disrespect. It's just out of force of habit from 3 months of fairly severe sequestration for my sad 60, 70-year-old body.
Yeah, I thought I'd be seeing my desktop. I was experimenting with this and I had no trouble seeing my desktop earlier, and I don't see my desktop here. It's not critical for this point, but I'm going to need to share it when I'm coming in as a, maybe I need to escape full screen.
I think it's only fair to let you know I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops along with a necktie tonight. I think that's proper COVID attire.
All right, here we go. I just thought I'd take the group through a brief overview of the site. Can everyone see my screen now?
I can't.
Okay, great. So this is provided by Frank Falcone, who's going to go into more detail of the site plans later. But just to give you an overview, our site is 4.6
I can't
acres.
see it.
And I can't see the exhibit.
You can't?
I
No.
cannot. Can anyone else see it?
No, I can't see it.
All
I
right.
can't.
Okay.
Does Mark Shield need to open it up, or who's got control of that?
Let me try it one more time.
Frank could possibly open it up from his location.
Oh, here, this should do it. This seems promising. Here we go. I apologize.
Okay.
There you go.
How's that work? Okay.
That worked.
So our site is a beautiful site along Pretty Brook Road. It's 4.6 acres, and I just wanted to give you an overview so that you have a sense of where we're proposing to do the work. The Pretty Brook Tennis Club was incorporated in 1929. We have a original clubhouse building right in this bottom corner down here, stone building that was renovated in 2018. We had to do a lot of life safety upgrades, and we provided handicap accessibility at that time, and we have completed that work. The portion of the club is quite active in the summer. Here's a pool, there's a unheated pavilion here, and 5 outdoor tennis courts that you see in the center, which are really the focus of the club. In this corner, we also have a couple of platform tennis courts. In the back of the property, which is back here, this is the property line here. So in the back corner of the property, we have a indoor court, which was added in 1966. And adjacent to it is 2 squash courts and a locker room facility that was added in 2002. So the application is focused on these yellow buildings here, which includes an additional court, and behind the squash courts, an additional squash court. We are undertaking this project really primarily for maintaining our membership. Our membership has declined in recent years. In 2000, we had 239 members. In 2010, we had 215 members. So these are mostly family memberships. And in 2020, we have about 175. So the professionals have told us that the way to maintain membership or increase membership is really to have more offerings in the winter, in the non-summer season. In the summer season, we have these 5 beautiful courts, and we're quite well served. In the winter, we just have 1 indoor court and 2 squash courts. So what we are proposing to do is to add this additional space, which we feel will really help attract additional members to our club, bring in additional families, because we could offer expanded programs such as we're really very light in what we can offer for youth tennis. And new members can often not get a place to play in the winter because the court is quite booked at key hours. It's 99% booked. So that's what we're here for, is really to help this club that's been in Princeton, been a critical part for a long time, and really needs to expand their facilities in order to continue their viability. We're very lucky that this is at an isolated back part of the property. It's quite wooded in this location, and we did already take down some ash trees that were diseased in preparation for getting this project, and it was really impossible to see these ash trees that have been removed. We removed 11 ash trees from this area through any public way. So I just wanted to state that the location works very nicely for our club, and that it's quite isolated, quite separate, and will be hard to see from Pretty Brook Road or from the Coniston Court direction. So I think that was just kind of my brief overview of the project and what we're trying to accomplish. We've asked Steve Forden to speak next. Steve is a club member and the current treasurer of our club.
Thanks, Kathy. You can leave that on if you want. Actually, I think it's just a good representation of what our club is, if you don't mind while I speak.
Okay.
Karen, would you like me to start this with a question, or can Steve just get started?
I think that's fine, Archie, but do you want this marked as an exhibit?
It is already an exhibit,
Is it?
Karen.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, did we number them already?
Yes, it's exhibit 6, I believe. It's from the Frank Falcone's portion of his, so yes,
Okay.
it's up there as an exhibit.
So Steve, you wanted to comment on some of the financial aspects of this, if you would proceed with that.
Yeah, thank you, Archie. So I'm a member of the Pretty Brook Tennis Club board and the treasurer as well. And obviously, as the treasurer, you really look at what our cash position is and how we can survive over the long term and part of our long-term strategic plan. So I think the key here is we need to adapt in order to maintain our future viability as a club. As we've seen some of our enrollment go down, we also have an aging demographic of present members that still want to play tennis, but we haven't had quite the emphasis on families nor children. So I think our goal here is to increase our ability to get new members, which would be families with children. And really the way for us to do that is to increase both our winter programs and then the accessibility in the summer. So the idea of a second tennis court and a third squash court really allows us to create what I want to call lesson-only courts in the winter, which are almost impossible to create today. And that way then we could still appease and still allow our present members to play in the winter, but we could also devote a lot of time and court space to new members and families. And we see that as an integral way for us to get back to that 220 number, 220, 230, which is really our ideal sweet spot.
Is that it, Steve?
That's it, Archie.
Okay, thank you. Jamie, are you still with us?
I am.
Jamie Herring, I think, Jamie, you want to talk a little bit about the aspects of tennis and squash play?
Thanks, Archie. So there's a significant trend for indoor tennis and squash for younger kids these days. It's slightly counterintuitive to think of tennis as a winter sport. But what has happened is that families have a large number of options in the spring, summer, and fall activities, and there are less options in the winter. So what we're finding is that indoor tennis and squash is becoming a significant attraction for families and kids. Families and kids are the economic drivers for the clubs like Pretty Brook, as Steve has said, and Pretty Brook has lost members along this moving trend, particularly young families, which are the real lifeblood of these clubs these days. It's also eating into our ability to attract new members. Instead, many of these families are driving longer distances out of town to go to these larger tennis programs, which are growing quite rapidly. Over 72% of our members live in Princeton, so we believe there's real interest to offer these facilities within close proximity to their homes and to have less driving. One indoor tennis court does not allow us to create any meaningful program. The time currently is split between adult groups, block time, and some kids clinics. 2 courts gives us that flexibility to devote one entirety to these programs. And looking at comparable programs, that's what's been the driver of the success for some of these other facilities.
Thank you. We are going to go to Frank now to give a overview, or Kathy, would you like to make the architectural presentation? Which would you prefer?
I think we had decided Frank would be next.
Okay. Frank, you with us?
I am here.
Would you give a overview of what's happening, identify the variances and some of the whys and wherefores, and give some of the engineering details as you have put them on your plans?
Okay. Go ahead.
Archie, I don't know if you want to qualify.
Oh, yes, I do. I apologize.
Yeah.
We swore them in. I know you know Frank, but Frank, if you would give us a brief rundown of your professional qualifications as an engineer, et cetera.
Non-engineer.
I am a professional planner and professional land surveyor with Princeton Junction Engineering. Our firm has prepared this conceptual site plan, I'll call it. I've appeared before this board many, many times.
Yeah, we would accept Frank. He's been before us many times.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy gave a really good overview. I'm going to add to that a little bit. We have a 4.4 acre property. We have a pond that's bisected by the westerly property line. We have two residential structures in range of the site, but they are quite far away. And as was testified to, there's ball fields in the rear. The site is in the rear is heavily wooded, and it's pretty well buffered and screened even in the winter time from the surrounding properties. You have a gravel driveway and parking lot. It is not lined with parking spaces because it is gravel. Although what you see on here this evening is just a layout of what can take place on the site. We've got 38 parking spaces. One of them is handicapped. With regard to the request for the loading space variance, usually the parking lot is only about 10% full. Trucks do come in and they park right alongside the building and bring in supplies into the basement of the clubhouse, and it functions very well. With regard to parking, there is a substantial parking variance. However, the club operates with this parking lot. Again, it's never seems more than 10% full unless it's they're having some sort of event, at which time they utilize valet parking. So parking is really not an issue here. The addition of one more indoor tennis court isn't going to intensify that need, so we really don't see a real issue with parking. 18 trees would have came down, but they have already taken down 11, so only 7 more additional trees will have to come down. We'll address that on site plan if we're successful here tonight. And our proposal to handle stormwater, you'll see this feature between the outdoor court and the existing indoor court. And this represents a very long and narrow underground detention facility that will handle the additional impervious surface area of the proposal. And again, that will be handled on site plan. Derek gave a very good review of the variances required. Indoor courts are not permitted use in the R1 zone. We have a floor area variance. 10% is maximum, and we are going to increase that by 4.44% or 8621 square feet of impervious surface area. There is a maximum impervious, excuse me, that was floor area. Maximum impervious lot coverage is 14%. We are already exacerbating that by up to 33%, and we're going to increase it to 47.7%. And then there is a height variance request of approximately 10.5 inches or 0.87 feet. We don't feel we need screening. Again, this site is very heavily wooded on all 3 sides. It's really has its own natural screening, so we don't see a need to add more screening. And we have Jim Kyle here with us tonight, who will go in depth on the support for the variances later on.
So Frank, your testimony is that you'll very easily be able to handle the additional runoff that is created by this new construction.
That is correct. We have looked at the increase in runoff, and what we see here tonight on the plan will be handled and controlled by the stormwater management feature. I must also add, we are in the C1 stream corridor, and we have had preliminary discussions with the DEP, who did not see any real major obstacles to our proposal. Jim Cosgrove of Kleinfelter has been handling the permitting issues on this, and he will prepare permits prior to the site plan application if we are successful.
The drainage and C1 stream corridor issues will be dealt with both with DEP and the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission. Is that right, Frank?
This is correct.
Before any construction takes place here.
This is correct. Since we need other DEP permits, the entire project will be reviewed by both the DEP and the Delaware Raritan Canal Commission.
So as I discussed at the open, this is a bifurcated variance. So nothing is being approved for construction now, and everything will be set. All the environmental reviews will take place before anything goes under construction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Frank, do you have any other exhibits that you wanted to get up, or is this?
I had a second exhibit that was really just an enlargement of what you see here, but I don't see a need to get into that.
All right, I don't have any other questions for Frank. Kathy will be next. Kathy Knight.
Okay, I'm going to just switch to another screen share. Hopefully I have success with this. Here we go.
Yes, my jokes weren't going over that well, so let's hope this one's a little faster.
Okay.
What is this marked as an exhibit, Kathy?
This is Exhibit 4. So this is one of Exhibit 4. So let me just make it a little smaller. So this is a floor plan showing the existing facility, which is in white, and the proposed facility, which is shaded green. So as you see on the left part of the page, you're seeing the existing indoor tennis court, and you see it mirrored on the right side of the page with the proposed new indoor tennis court. In the center is the entrance to the building through a vestibule that is handicapped accessible now, currently. We have two men and a women's locker room, a small pro shop, and then you see two existing squash courts. The grade slopes up to the back corner, so we are proposing that the indoor court, the new indoor court, be 3 feet above the existing floor level. This will allow less cut and fill back in the nice wooded area that we have there, and minimize the impact on the site and the mature trees. So with it going up 3 feet, we want to maintain handicapped accessibility to this court. So behind the first and second, the existing squash courts, you see a ramp that would allow you to get up to the indoor court. And then just behind that is the proposed third squash court. From the front of the building, there will be a small door directly into the indoor court for members that want to use it that way. There is an overhead door proposed as well. You will need to be able to get lifts in there to be able to change light bulbs and things like that. Any new equipment would be planted and screened. So this is a schematic design of what the floor plan will look like. And moving.
Kathy, could you confirm for the court reporter, this is exhibit number again?
Exhibit 4.
Great, thank you.
Here we're looking at the front and rear elevations. So at the bottom is the front elevation, and you're seeing on the left side the existing indoor court. In the center is the existing entry vestibule, a small pro shop, and the women's locker room. And on the right side is proposed the new indoor court. The intention is to have the materials similar to what is there now, so it will look very compatible with the existing structure. From the rear, which is actually very hard to see, I mean, you're in the middle of the woods, but you're looking at the existing building. This would be an egress by the new squash court. And then this is the indoor court raised up because this site does slope up. And again, we wanted to kind of minimize the cut and the fill and the amount of grading required.
It's just the new building is just 3 feet higher than the existing tennis court. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what we've proposed. Yes. And then this sheet shows a section through the existing squash courts right here. So this is the existing space. And then this is the proposed one tucking in right behind it. And this is a view of the north side of the building, the new building with just metal panels and a pitched roof to match the existing. We've included a few pictures of what we have there. The top pictures are showing from the parking lot where you would walk up a brick.
Excuse me, are these all part of Exhibit 4 or are these separately numbered exhibits, Kathy?
Correct, they're all part of Exhibit 4.
Okay, so all 4 sheets that Kathy's working on are part of Exhibit 4.
That's correct. So the top views are showing what it looks like now as you're leaving our gravel parking lot, and there's a walkway up to the existing building. This is the existing tennis court built in 1966. Here you're seeing a corner of our outdoor tennis courts, and here's the indoor court and the walkway going up through it, and the wooded area behind. This is a view of the front entry vestibule as it exists now, and the existing indoor court. And as you've seen, we're proposing to mirror that on the other side. Another view of the ladies' locker room and the existing entrance from where the new building would be located. This is a rear view of the indoor court and the squash courts, and this is the area that the third squash court and the ramp is proposed to tuck in right in that kind of notched area. The indoor views down here, this is one of the 2 indoor squash courts. This is the lobby space as you come in, and you're seeing the indoor court on the left, the existing one, the squash courts on the right, and this is an exit egress door right now that would you'd go through there and come to the ramp in the third court. And this view is from the existing indoor court looking through the glass wall into the lobby space and the squash courts beyond. So that is the extent of those exhibits. So really the goal is to match the existing building and make it a complementary building adjacent to it. Should I leave this up or turn this off now? I believe Jim's going to be next.
Do any members of the board have any questions, by the way?
I just have one. I mean, it's a minor question. I assume on the new court, you're going to have any exit doors, man doors on there to get out of the court?
Yes, that's right. There was one that was directly to the front of it, and then there'll be the second egress would be down through the ramp.
Down through the ramp.
So here's one right here, exit door.
Okay.
And then we'll have one in the back right through here and out.
Okay, no problem. I have another question about parking, but I can wait till the end and ask that.
All right, I didn't know what your protocols are, whether you let the witnesses go or questions.
No, let's finish up and then we can ask.
Okay.
Unless any of the board members have any questions.
Kathy, you know, I've stressed that in my non-professional opinion, this will not really be perceptible from the road very well. Do you have any comment on that?
Yes, it will be very hard to see from any public way, the way it's situated on the site. We're fortunate for that because of the existing tree coverage and the distance from the road.
Thank you. Is that it for you, Kathy?
That's it, yes.
All right. Jim?
Yes, sir.
Still with us? Good.
I'm
I've
here.
been waiting for technological failures in this thunderstorm all night, but so far so good. I have a generator, but I'm not sure everyone does. Okay, Jim, I think we'll qualify you. If you could give the board a brief resume. I know they know you very well, but if you give them a brief resume of your professional qualifications as a planner.
Sure. Again, for the record, Jim Kyle from Kyle McManus Associates in Hopewell, here representing Pretty Brook Tennis Club as their planner. I'm licensed as a professional planner, also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, and have appeared a number of times recently. So I'm
You've
still licensed.
testified before this board, so
Yes.
so I think we can accept your credentials.
Thank you.
Was he believable?
Somewhat.
Oh, good.
I don't know. I'm not done yet. We'll see. Time will tell. So I was retained by the applicant to review the planning issues associated with the current proposal. I've met with the team. We've discussed the application and the plans. We've also reviewed the municipal zoning ordinance and master plan. I've visited the site, also reviewed Mr. Bridger's memo in preparation to offer the testimony to the board. So as we've discussed, the two main variances, the D variances that are required for this are the D2, that's for the expansion of a legally existing non-conforming use. This is the R1 district. As Mr. Bridger said, the only uses that are permitted in this district are single-family residential uses. And then to go with that, the expansion, the roughly 8,600 square foot expansion, also gives rise to the need for a floor area ratio variance, a D4 variance. 10% is what's permitted in the R1, and we're proposing 13.67. So obviously, with a non-residential use in a rather restrictive residential zone, it's very difficult for us to meet those underlying bulk standards for floor area ratio. Even the impervious coverage variance is a little difficult at 14%. That's not something that's going to be compatible with a non-residential use like this, where additional parking is required, walkways, things like that. And then as Frank covered, the bulk variances that are required, the maximum impervious coverage, maximum building height, which were slightly over the required parking. And then there are kind of three design requirements. As we discussed, the parking area is required to be paved. We require a loading area where one's not provided. And there's also another standard for screening of the parking area. And this would be something that is not met as well. So just to go into the, probably the D2 variance first. This is a little bit different than the standard D1 variance for a principal use that's not permitted in the zone. This is a legally existing non-conforming use that, as Kathy said, has been here, initially established in 1929, which likely predates zoning in the township. And the courts have said we're not held to the strict standards of the D1 variance and the Medici enhanced proof on a D2. Because really the court acknowledged in a lot of these cases that have been through that this represents a little bit of a different standard in that the use already exists and the impacts of that use are well known. So they've suggested, the courts, that the board look a little bit more liberally on the negative criteria, because we're dealing with a use that already exists. It's not like a brand new non-permitted use in a zone where it's not permitted. So in terms of the positive criteria for the use variance, I think that the public welfare is promoted because the site's particularly suited to the expansion. We have an area to the east of the existing indoor courts that we've described that can accommodate the expansion in a way that's not going to be visible from the roadway. It's also not going to be visible to the surrounding homes. So the home that's closest to us on Coniston Court, if you look at the topographic plan in Mr. Falcone's plan set, you can see that just to the east of where this is proposed, it rises pretty sharp and then falls down towards Coniston Court. So it's very difficult from that street to get a view of this site. That, combined with the existing woodlands that we have there, the mature vegetation, does a really good job of hiding the area where this expansion is proposed. There's no residential homes immediately adjacent that would have view of it. As I said, there's a home to the west, which is on the other side of the pond, and then the first home on Coniston Court, which is largely hidden by the topography of the site in general. And then, as we've described, the site's well buffered on all three surrounding sides. You have athletic fields at PDS that are just to our north. but there's a pretty good expanse of woods there, and then woods on all sides that really do a good job of hiding this expansion. So I think that this site is particularly well suited to the expansion that we're proposing. I think there's also purposes of the municipal land use law that would be promoted by the grant of the variance here, including purpose A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state, which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Also purpose G, to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of uses. And then also purpose M, which speaks to the more efficient use of land. So overall, the grant of the variance here will provide additional indoor court options in the Princeton area, particularly for families and children. As we said, this is really geared at expanding those offerings that the club can make to families and children, and lessons, and then really just providing court time. You know, my wife plays a fair amount of indoor tennis in the area, and we're in Hopewell Township. It's very difficult to find court time in a lot of places. So I think this gives another indoor recreation option to members, and it helps promote year-round recreation activities. And as we said, as Kathy noted, about 70%, a little more than 70% of the members actually live within the municipality. So it's really serving the local area, and that's what it's intended to do. This minor expansion also allows for more efficient use of the site, and it really takes full advantage of the existing improvements and the fact that the club exists on this site, and I think that's important. And when we talk about the master plan a little bit, I'll get to another point where, you know, it'd be very difficult to pick this up and move it to another location within the municipality. So that's really where the efficient use of land purpose comes in that, you know, we're really utilizing those existing improvements and allowing the minor expansion. So I think for those reasons, we can meet the positive criteria. In terms of the negative, any potential substantial detriment to surrounding properties, as I've described, the site's well buffered on all sides. The area where the expansion is, I would agree with Kathy's assessment that it will largely not be visible from Pretty Brook Road. The main thing that you see as you drive by here is the clubhouse, and the pool area is kind of shielded with some landscaping and fencing. But you don't really get a good view of the indoor courts that are at the rear of the property. Sorry, there's a fire engine going by. Hold on one second.
Wow.
Yeah, my office is in an old building, so when it roars up Greenwood Avenue, the windows don't do much to keep the sound out. The other point here is that the expansion is in the area of the site that is farthest from the Pretty Brook and should help limit some of the potential environmental impacts. As Mr. Falcone said, we have met with the DEP initially and did receive a favorable review or determination on it. So we don't think that the permitting will be an issue, but this really pushes that expansion as far away as we can from the pond and from the brook. And then the tennis club, as I said, has been here since 1929. It's gone through, obviously, expansions over time, but really the impact that's associated with the facility is already there. And we don't expect that the expansion of the indoor offerings is going to greatly increase that impact. I think that the limited visibility of the area of expansion is critical. And when I look at this on the whole, I don't think that there'll be any substantial impact to surrounding properties as a result of the expansion. As I said too, on the D2, the courts have suggested that the board look a little bit more liberally on the negative criteria because the use already exists and a lot of those impacts associated with the use already exist. Obviously, of course, the context of the expansion is important. But again, I think that we're really limiting or doing the best we can to limit the impact. In reviewing the master plan, I just wanted to note the following. You know, one of the themes in the master plan that's kind of repeated in the 1996 plan and in the updates, and then also in the re-examination report from 2017, is the fact that the municipality is facing a shortage of vacant developable land to meet many of the competing needs of the community. So I think this lends support to the idea that we should take advantage of the improvements that exist on this site, as it's unlikely that we could move this facility, you know, to another location within the municipality. I also reviewed the goals of the master plan. Some of the ones that jumped out to me are to maintain a balanced community that offers a mix of land uses while providing appropriately scaled community infrastructure and services. Also preserve the existing character and mix of commercial, residential, and other land uses in the Princeton community. preserve, protect, and enhance natural, cultural, and recreational resources, and also preserve and protect the character of established neighborhoods. The purposes of the ordinance as expressed in the land development ordinance largely mirror those of the municipal land use law, but it also adds the layer of promoting sustainability and also environmental protection. In reviewing these and the master plan goals, I don't think that there's any substantial impairment of those goals. I think overall here, the expansion makes efficient use of the improvements that already exist on the site, and it allows to serve a need within the community that meets the demand for additional indoor recreation options. I think we can successfully deal with any of the environmental constraints and stormwater in a way that will not impact the environment. So I think that also plays into it. So I would say that there's no substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan through the expansion of this facility. Jumping over to the D4 variance, excuse me, as the board has heard many times, the standard for this one, much like the conditional use variance D3, is a little bit less of a legal standard as compared to a D1 and even a D2. The focus here of the board is really on the effect that the increase in floor area will have on the suitability of the site, also the effect that increase will have on surrounding properties, and then really reconciling why the governing body put that limitation in place to begin with. So I think for the positive criteria, I think the same positive criteria hold true as for the D2 variance. And I would say that the site does remain suitable despite the minor increase in floor area, as the new floor area proposed is largely hidden from view, and it won't result in a dramatic increase in the activity. Focusing on the negative criteria, any potential detriment or impact to surrounding properties, as Mr. Falcone testified to, the addition of the courts, the squash court and the indoor tennis court, we don't feel is going to have any dramatic increase in activity at the site. We don't suspect it'll be a dramatic increase in noise or traffic to the site as a result, and it won't generate a substantial increase in demand for parking at the site. We've discussed the parking issue because obviously the nature of the variance or the departure seems on its face to be quite substantial, but I think based on the long history of the club and usage of the parking area as it is situated now, we feel pretty confident that the parking is not going to be an issue in terms of meeting the demand of members that attend on a regular basis. So I don't think there'll be any substantial impact to surrounding properties from the increase in the FAR. Then in terms of reconciling the intent of the standard, again, as I said, obviously it's very difficult to apply a residential standard for single family homes to a non-residential use like this. So I think an FAR is really an intensity control. So I think given that here, and again, this is not an office building in a residential zone that, where additional floor area means, additional employees and things that would generate traffic and noise. So I think overall, we can reconcile the standard here. First of all, being the fact that it's a residential zone and it's difficult to meet that standard for the non-residential use, but also that the intensity of the site is well controlled in terms of the appearance of the site, visibility of the site. So I don't think it'll result in an overdeveloped appearance. And again, it will largely not be visible from Pretty Brook Road and then also those surrounding residential uses that we have. So I just want to touch on the bulk variances that are required. Again, we will be back for site plan, although we don't suspect that many of these conditions will change. So we did want to provide the board with some testimony and consideration of these now. I would say that the maximum impervious coverage variance and the maximum building height variance are really subsumed within the D2 variance. Under the Price v. Himeji case in 2013, when the board is considering a use variance and the conditions that are created by that are part and parcel to the use itself, those bulk variances can really be subsumed within them. But I'm only going to say that really for the impervious coverage and the building height, because those are kind of closely related to the expansion of the facility. And again, those, same kind of positive criteria, and we don't feel that there'll be any substantial impact from those increases, because again, it's difficult to apply those residential standards here. We can successfully deal with the stormwater management issues from the impervious coverage. And really the addition here is less than 10,000 square feet. And we're going to handle that with on-site treatment. In terms of the required parking variance, I think this qualifies as a C2 where the benefits outweigh the detriments and purposes of zoning are promoted. I think the purposes that come to mind for me are purpose A, to promote the general welfare, and also purpose J, conservation of the environment. So this really allows us to provide a parking solution that not only fits the site, but really fits the use of the site. Not all parking standards are meant to be all encompassing. I think, based on the history of the club and the discussions that we've had as a team, the parking functions adequately today, and we feel will continue to function adequately. The benefit here is that we're not going to disturb other areas of the site and further exacerbate the impervious coverage variance that we're already seeking by putting in parking that's really unnecessary. So I think this reduces the impervious coverage on the site. It reduces the need for additional stormwater management measures, structural measures, and it also limits the development footprint on the site as well. So we think there is a benefit. In terms of any potential impact to surrounding properties from the reduction, it's really an internal issue. When you think about a reduction in parking, the typical situation that you would have is people parking off-site and coming on-site. So if you know the area, there's not really anywhere you can do that. You can't park on Pretty Brook Road safely, and the residential street, Coniston Court, is just too far away for people to come, and I don't think that's a situation that occurs now. So it's really more of an internal issue for the club. And again, we don't think there's going to be any impact to surrounding properties from this reduction. And then in terms of the potential impact to the zone plan and ordinance, again, here, the intent obviously is to provide adequate parking. I think based on the testimony that the board has heard from people that are closely tied to the club, we feel that the parking that's provided is adequate. We think this helps, and the benefits here outweigh any potential detriment in the environmental benefit that we get from reducing the impervious coverage. Let's see. So the pavement required for the parking area where stone is proposed, and I think the loading area can probably be addressed together. I think these also qualify as C2 variances. Purpose A, to promote the general welfare. Also purpose I, to promote a desirable visual environment, and then J, conservation of the environment, are all promoted. Now, while technically impervious, the existing gravel that's there will provide some infiltration as compared to pavement. So I think there is some benefit to leaving it as gravel. It also maintains the existing appearance of the site, which is more in keeping with the aesthetic of the existing clubhouse as viewed from the road. So I think the lack of pavement is kind of more compatible with this relatively undeveloped appearance that we have on Pretty Brook Road in general, and it's more in keeping with the aesthetic that we have there. So I think there is some positive benefit there. In terms of any impact to surrounding properties, again, this is also an internal issue for members and guests. So I don't think it'll substantially impact surrounding properties. I would note, though, that the driveway apron is paved, so that'll help keep rocks from being transported out onto Pretty Brook Road, which is a typical concern when you have a gravel parking area. So I don't think that there'll be any impact to surrounding properties from the site remaining as gravel. And then in terms of any impact to the zone plan and zoning ordinance, I think given the visual benefits and the better compatibility with the site and surroundings and the aesthetics of the area, and the fact that it's really an internal issue, I don't think there'd be any substantial impairment of the standard if we don't pave the parking area or provide the loading area. Because quite frankly, the loading area would just be, again, excessive impervious coverage that's not really needed for the way that the club functions. And then finally, just to address the screening of the parking area, I think this qualifies in a different way as a C1 hardship variance. I think the existing configuration of the parking area and the positioning of the clubhouse really makes it impractical to undertake any large-scale screening. I think there is also some C2 benefit here in that in order to provide sufficient screening, say from Pretty Brook Road, we would have to eliminate some parking stalls, which would further impact the parking supply and would, create more of a variance here. So I think there is also some benefit and purposes of zoning that would be promoted by that as well. In terms of any impact to the public good, If you've driven by the site, it's fairly isolated. There are no structures immediately across Pretty Brook Road that would be impacted from the lack of screening. The residential use that we have to the west is situated a little higher than this site and is well to the west of the pond, and there's rather significant mature trees that kind of intercede between the parking area. So I don't think the visibility of the parking area is necessarily an issue in terms of any of the surrounding properties. And then in terms of the impact to the intent and purpose of the zone plan, I think we have to acknowledge the limitations that we have in the existing improvements and the desire to maintain as much of the parking supply as we can. And given the fact that there's no development across Pretty Brook Road, I think the intent of the standard is not substantially impacted because the site is well screened as it exists today. Mr. Chairman, that's all I had in the way of direct. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Jim, if I could raise one point. The new uses are, would it be correct to say they're primarily winter uses when the outdoor courts and the pool are closed?
Yes, that is true.
I just wanted to make that point, that if the traffic were to be exacerbated, it's in a period of time when the rest of the club is generally shut down. So
that is absolutely true.
Jim, is that, if I may add just one thing, we did give a widespread notice of this in the spring when we were putting this together. We had a community meeting. Only 2 neighbors came. Both were positive. We received no negative comments. As always on my notices, I put my phone number there if anyone had any questions. I did not receive any calls from any interested parties with any objection. So we did reach out to the neighborhood much farther than the actual statutory notice. Everybody up Coniston Court, the homeowners association nearby, everybody across the street and up the hill, and everybody was given a good chance to come down and share a cocktail and some food and look at our plans and get an explanation. And hardly anyone came, but we did make that effort to reach early in the process if anyone in the neighborhood wanted to have any input. So I believe that's our presentation. Kathy, did you want to say anything in conclusion as the project manager? You are muted.
No, I appreciate all the testimony. I think it was very well covered. The only comment I was going to make was about the parking and the fact that it is a seasonal, and you covered that as well, that when these courts are in use is when we don't have the pool in use and all those 5 outdoor courts in use. So therefore the parking is always substantially less in the winter than it is in the summer. And that's when these will be utilized. So it's actually should not affect our overall parking count. But I appreciate everybody's testimony, and we're free to answer questions if anyone has any.
I have a couple. Just one is just a little bit of a housekeeping issue. On the application under floor area ratio, it talks about the existing at 13.07 and the proposed at 17.49. West memo talks about a floor area ratio of 13.67.
Was an update of the original application, I believe.
I'm sorry?
I think there was an update of the original application in response, and when we submitted a second variance page with a subsequent letter that I submitted in response to some requests from the professionals. Frank, what is the correct variance that we are seeking on the floor area ratio?
It's as it was in Derek's memo. It's 13.5, and where 10 exists, where 10 is allowed, and we're increasing that by 4.44%. At the proposed is 13.5, which is the proposed is 13.5, which is a 4.44 increase.
The proposed is 13.5.
Right.
So you're at the requirement is the maximum is 10. What's your currently existing floor area ratio?
It is 10% would be 19,423. We are adding 8,621 square feet.
So what's the percent?
The percentages of our variance request.
I'd have to divide that out. I did not do that.
Frank, on sheet 2, it says proposed is 13.67.
Yeah, I think I took that from your memo, Derek, the 13.5.
My memo has a 13.67.
I think that
Proposed.
falls in line with the revision we did that Archie mentioned. So it is the 13.67,
13.67?
right?
And what is, and what's your existing now?
It is 9.06. So
9.06, okay. All right, so you're under the 10 now, you'll be over by 4, whatever you said.
right.
Okay, all right, okay. And that was the only question I had on that. And the other question I had was parking. I've been by there and obviously, yeah, there are not a lot of cars in there. You have special events though, where you say you have valet parking. How many of those do you have a year typically?
And Kathy could answer that better than I.
In my experience, we've had 1 or 2 a year. The last one I remember was the opening of our clubhouse. So so far, our special events have not been so heavily registered for that we've required it. But if it ever would be required, we have a history of doing that. So again, I think the last one I know was in 2018 when we opened up the clubhouse after having it closed for a year for the renovation.
So even the special events don't create
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's all I have. Board members have any questions? Any of the witnesses?
Mr. Reed, I have a question for you. So the applicant is seeking all its variances now, the use and all the bulk?
Yes.
Okay.
It just to get, I think that was possibly a Derek's suggestion that we get all of the stuff that would limit us later on and would have to come back for more variance relief. And I appreciate that, Derek. Thank you very much. So I think it's perfectly acceptable to get your bulk variances at the same time as the use variance. It accomplishes the task that we want, that we get the environmental stuff. And that's going to be a struggle, but when we get that taken care of, we don't have any other variances that we're going to require unless the environmental requirements come up with something else. So yes, we're seeking all of the variances noticed for.
Okay. The only reason I asked is because since it is bifurcated for the benefit of the board, they're not seeing the site plan yet. So right now.
So the site plan is not going to differ very much from this. The location of the drainage, obviously if the drainage needs to be expanded, that will be a site plan issue. And if that requires further variance, we will. But we are confident that the proposed underground drainage will satisfy all the requirements.
Okay.
And I think I'd just like to add, just as sort of dicta, that does the impervious coverage include the courts, Frank?
What it includes is the increase by the new courts.
No, but I mean, when you calculated the original impervious coverage, does that include the tennis courts and the gravel driveway?
Absolutely.
So I just want to mention that the courts drain rather well, even though they're treated as impervious coverage, and the parking lot is gravel and also drains. We don't have tremendous torrents coming down. So a substantial amount of our impervious coverage is quite pervious.
Saving the gravel will also help with the DNR Canal Commission review and approval. If that were to go to asphalt, it would make life a lot more difficult in that regard. I think they'll appreciate the fact that the parking lot is staying gravel. They have a big issue with what they call new pavement.
Karen, did that satisfy your question? I don't think there are going to be any big changes at the site plan that would require, I asked Frank to get as much stuff in here as he could without, going into total detail. But I think, the impervious and the coverage and everything are where they stand.
Actually, that was a suggestion of Jack West to get the variances during the use variance meeting and then deal with site plan issues second.
Okay.
Are there any other questions of any of the witnesses? Okay, I think we'll open this up to the public. Claudia, do we have anybody waiting in the wings here?
I don't see anybody. There was Robert Caruso and Don Benny. They just say they're members of the group, but they're not raising their hands to speak.
Okay.
That's members of the club, Claudia?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so no, we have no one who wants to speak now
No,
then.
Claudia, I do see 2 hands.
Yeah, I see that too.
That just came up. I have Mr. Robert Caruso again and Arslan Mian, Pretty Brook members. Do you want him to speak?
Hi, can you hear me now? It's Arslan here.
Mr. Meehan, although I don't think I can see you, but if you
I
would
can turn my video on in a minute.
swear or affirm that any testimony you give this evening would be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
You may speak.
Trying to get the video to work as well. Here you go. Okay, it's not letting me go on video. But yeah, no, I've been so all great comments made by some specialized professionals in the field of planning and architecture, which I'm not. But I'll kind of give you maybe 30-second background on myself and my role at kind of currently at Pretty Brook. So I work at BlackRock, right across the street from Route 1. I've been there for 16 years, and 10 out of those 16 years I've been a Princeton resident, and joined Pretty Brook a few years ago, mainly because of squash. So I have 4 kids in my family, and besides the baby who's too young, 3 of my other kids are very active squash players. And I guess being a Princeton resident, I'm also a proud father of a Princeton University student. He just finished his freshman year at Princeton and is planning to work through this pandemic and COVID and study from home for the next few months. So in this, I guess, lockdown situation, having a facility like Pretty Brook for our family has been, in kind of, in other words, a great way to at least go out and stay active. We're there almost every day or every other day, and we're very heavy users of the squash courts. As I just mentioned, 3 of my kids play squash. For many years, I actually used to go to Pennington Ewing Athletic Club Peak, which is a good kind of 30-minute drive from where I live in Princeton. And the reason why I initially had not joined Pretty Brook was they only had 2 courts, and they used to have, I'd say, pretty heavy membership user base of those courts. And I wanted lessons for my 3 kids. And I didn't get enough court time, or at least based on my research, I didn't think I would have gotten enough court time for my kids to avail the facility. And what I'm really happy with is they've hired a world-class pro now, whose kind of CV and resume is really strong. He was world ranked like number 40 in the world at one point, and 2 of my kids are taking lessons with him now. So the conflict I face as a member who plays himself, so I've been playing squash for 25, 30 years. I played squash growing up, is I'm conflicted. I want to schedule a lesson for my kids, but I also want to play myself. I want to play with the members when it was allowed, and hopefully at some point in the future we'll be allowed to socialize with each other. The difficulty I face now is if I'm availing the course, or one of my member friends is using a court, I cannot schedule a lesson. And if I schedule a lesson, so I'm having to give up my own squash time to schedule a lesson for my kids, and that's the constant sort of struggle and challenge. And I think a point was made, which I completely agree with. It's easier during the summer. It's very difficult during the winters, because there are a lot of tennis players here at Pretty Brook, like Jamie Herring himself, who's also a very good squash player. So many of those tennis players during winters, they all move indoors and they're all wanting to play squash. And there have been a number of occasions where members are sitting outside and kids are having lessons, or kids are waiting outside and members are playing and they cannot have a lesson. So I think, again, from a family point of view, with 4 kids in my family, I kind of joined the club hoping I've managed to have the balance there. And I think so far it's been great, but I think having a 3rd squash court would be a phenomenal addition to the court. And I have at least a handful of other friends and families who want to join Pretty Brook for squash and tennis, but I think their hesitation right now is their kids may not get enough lesson time. And they're all being attracted to Pretty Brook because of the ease of commute. I think that point was made. I can walk to Pretty Brook. And that tells you for several years, I was commuting to Pennington Ewing Athletic Club because I could not avail this facility and get court time for my kids or for myself. But I'm experimenting with it right now over the last few years, and it's working, but it's not quite, it's clunky. So I think the indoor aspect of some of these sports during winter is, from a community point of view, I think trying to keep everybody healthy is going to be a huge attraction for all the existing members as well as bringing new members. So kind of those are my kind of member experience comments that I can share.
Excuse me just a second. Frank, can you hear me?
Yes.
Would you give me a call, please, at my home number? Write it down, 609-213-3816. There's one thing I need to talk to you about before we're done here.
Okay.
609-213-3816. Anyone else wants to call me, please feel free. Did we have any other public comment?
It's Bob Caruso. I'm happy to comment as well.
Sir, we'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So thank you so much to the committee for considering this. It's really, really important. I've been a longstanding Princeton resident, and I probably live physically, except for one other member on Pretty Brook, I probably live physically the closest to the club on Pretty Brook. I live right down on North Road, on Pretty Brook, but just near North Road. A couple things I wanted to mention without repeating a lot of what you already have heard. It is really, really important to have more offerings for other families. I also have 5 children and have to shuttle them around to other facilities to get them tennis and squash time during the winter, because the one existing tennis court and the 2 squash courts are very, very full. So selfishly, I would love to drive them probably 38 seconds out of my driveway to Pretty Brook in order to do that. But I know that is a very big draw to other younger families that are coming into the area to have those indoor facilities. Because like I think Jamie said, having the pickup in tennis and other racket sports like squash are really growing. because there's really just basketball and volleyball are the only other sports for kids in the winter. So I think it's very important to have other offerings for young families. You know, secondly, regarding parking and other, you know, noise and other things. I mean, I've lived in my house for, I don't know how long, 12 plus years, and been a very active Pretty Brook member. There's never, ever been an issue as a member that I've ever had a problem parking, or that it's even been remotely too crowded to park in the decade plus. And just being a resident, we've never had any issue regarding anything at the club at all. There's a lot more noise actually from PDS than there is from the club, and certainly from the street. You can't see, you know, you can't even see the pool, never mind the indoor court. So I hope this goes through. It'll be a great addition to the club. Obviously, these are tough, challenging times, and we need every offering we can to make sure that this incredible gem that we're so lucky to have in Princeton can continue to survive and hopefully thrive. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Claudia, is there anyone else that is waiting to speak?
I don't see any hands.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public portion, and we can go into, I guess at this point, Mr. Reed, do you want to make a closing statement before we go into an executive session? Oh, you're on the phone. Okay, we'll wait a second here if he wants to. Or Kathy, do you want to say anything before we go into executive session?
I don't have anything further to add, Steve. Thank you very much. I don't have anything further to add unless there's any questions that I can answer.
I don't have, well, maybe a board member might have one as we get into executive session, but nothing now. Should we wait till Archie gets off the phone?
If I had to guess, they're just trying to clarify the figures for us to get them correct. So if I had to guess, but
we'll wait a second here. And then,
wait just a second.
all right, maybe what we'll do is we'll go into executive session.
We're just doing a little math here. I just want to clarify just one thing. Go ahead, please proceed.
See, this is usually the part where Archie goes out into the hallway and we've had a 5-minute recess, but we can't do that on Zoom, so.
Right, okay, right. He's actually disappearing for a beer, but all right, that's fine. Well, let's go into executive session at this point. If Archie comes back and wants to add anything, we can go back and do that. Karen, is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
All right, so do any of the board members have any questions or comments regarding this application? Well, I mean, I have a couple. I think I've lived in Princeton for a while. I don't belong to Pretty Brook, but it's been there for a long time. I think it's a valuable asset. And I think that let's go back. Archie, Mr. Reed, do you want to close? We've gone through the public portion. We're about to go into executive session. Do you want to say anything before?
I was just confirming with Frank. I just want to make absolutely sure about that FAR number. I think we're requesting the correct amount of increase. I just want to make sure that we have the final, that the first two numbers are correct. So if I could just reserve the right to come back and clarify that if Frank determines it's not exactly what you have before you.
No problem.
That would be great.
Okay, so we're in executive session. I was about to speak. I started out saying that I think having been in Princeton for a long time, not a member of Pretty Brook, but I know it is a valuable asset in the community. I think this proposed addition is well cited. I think it'll have no impact on the surrounding area. And would allow the club to continue, which I think is very important. And I would recommend approval. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Anyone? Okay. All right, well.
I agree with you, Steve, if that makes a difference.
Good.
Karen, because of the supermajority requirement, I was wondering if I could get kind of a sense of the board before a vote is called. I do not want to trap my client in a res judicata situation if it's likely that a negative vote would be forthcoming.
Well, Archie, it seems to me you've heard no comments from anyone.
That's okay. Not required at all. I'm just, I think it's just a excess of caution on my part.
Well, we can't take an informal vote, but I think I would hope that if anybody had any objections or major concerns, they would voice them.
Yeah, I don't see any negative impact.
All right, not having heard from Frank, I'm going to just also reserve, we submitted 2 variance sheets. Our FAR increase is the 3.47, I believe, that we're talking about.
6.7. I think that's what's on your
Our
plan.
starting number may, it's just my papers got mixed up and I'm not sure which one is applicable.
Archie?
Yes.
On your site plan, it's the 3.67 is referenced as the proposed, just so we're.
Yes, but I don't want to go get 3.67 when we're not starting from the correct number.
Okay.
I think there is a chance that we are currently at 1307. And as Frank is working on that, I would like to have the variance granted from the 1307 plus the 3.47 if people are amenable to that. I'm sorry for the confusion. We did submit a corrected sheet. And although the plans show the one thing, we did notice for the 3.67.
So right now the requirement is 10. You're at 13.07 and you're requesting 17.49.
Yes, I believe that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I apologize for the confusion. Let's call it COVID virus. I've been practicing from my hot 3rd floor room here for 3 months.
All right.
Steve, I move we accept the D2 and D4 variances on this.
Okay.
Steve, just a question. That's just D2 and T4, but they're also looking for all their bulk variances.
Yes, I would include all of those.
Okay. And then,
Wait, let's just go. So
all
we're
this
excuse me, Karen, we're including the D2 variance, the D4, and the 3 bulk variances.
Well, actually, it's more than 3,
Yes.
though. Bulk variances.
It's 6 bulk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're
It's
outlined in
it's
Derek's
6.
memo.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
6. Yeah, well. It's 6 bulk variances, right?
Yeah. And this would all be subject, of course, to review and approval of site plan
Right.
and any of the third-party approvals that they might need in connection with the site plan.
Okay.
Just check my numbers. 13.67 is the proposed amount of FAR.
Okay, so then
Proposed?
we are in good shape then, Frank. Thank you.
Yes.
I want to clarify that because of our conflicting submissions.
So the proposed is 13.67?
Yes.
What
So
is
the
and
the
what is the
17
existing, Frank?
I'll have to check it. Hold on.
17,932 is what's on the plan on the sheet. 3.
So what is the existing and what's the proposed?
Frank has disappeared again.
I'm looking at your numbers on the plan, and you have on sheet A, or sheet 3 of 4, you have the floor area calculations, and you have it laid out, including the proposed tennis squash court building of 8,621 square feet. The total is 26,553 square feet divided by the lot area, and that gets at the 13.67.
Okay, we will go with that.
I think you need.
If there is an error, we will correct it in site plan.
Okay. All right, so the proposed is 13.67. All right. Okay. Is there a second to the motion that Stephen made?
I'll second it. Nick Valvanis.
Any discussion on the motion? Claudia? Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Tannenbaum,
Yes.
Mr. Lavanis,
Yes.
Ms. Chen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Archie.
Thank you, everybody.
Apologize
Thank
for
you
the
very
distance.
Archie, your numbers work. They
Thank
match
you.
what's on the site plan, so I think you should be all right.
Yep. Frank, we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Good work.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your
You're
coming out.
welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.
Evening.
Okay. Does anybody want to take a break or should we move forward? Okay. All right. Our next and last agenda item is, oops, hold on, I got my index out. Okay, our next case is, carries the case number Z 2020-840. It's 15 Aiken Avenue, block 5101, lot 26, in the R3 zone. Karen, are we good to hear this?
Yes, the noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction.
Derek, do you want to speak to this?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Olivier and Lee Brigand are the owners and applicants of 15 Aiken Avenue, and they are seeking a C1 variance to permit the construction of a small 19 square foot addition in exception to the required smaller and combined side yard setbacks. Setback variance is required to permit construction of a larger rear porch. The property is located in the R3 zone, is subject to the use and bulk regulations in accordance with section 17A 241 and 245. The existing single-family use is permitted as of right. It's half of a attached dwelling with a common lot line. It's non-complying with regard to the required lot area, which is 7,200 square feet. The existing lot area is 5,100 square feet. It's also non-complying with regards to the 60-foot lot width. The existing is 30 feet. And the building itself is non-compliant with the smaller side yard setback requirement of 8. The existing is 0 feet. It's a 0 lot line, as I mentioned earlier. And it's not complying with regard to the combined side yard setback of 20 feet. The existing is 6.66, and it's not compliant with the building height to setback ratio. The applicant is proposing to construct a 19 square foot, 1-story addition on the rear portion of the western elevation of the subject property. The addition will expand the existing kitchen. It does not meet the combined side yard setback requirement at the kitchen. It's 9.66. They're also proposing to remove an existing rear porch, which is approximately 42 square feet, and move it with a slightly larger uncovered, approximately 80 square foot porch. The recently enacted neighborhood character ordinance permits a setback exception for uncovered porches to project not more than 4 feet into a side yard setback, but this porch encroaches 3 feet. So the requirement's 4, and the proposed is 3. They need a variance. They've requested consideration under the C1 criteria. And that's a quick explanation of the application. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Okay,
Thanks.
all right. Who is presenting as the applicant?
Can't hear you.
Is the applicant here?
I don't think your microphone's working. Now you're on mute.
Who, me?
No, Steven, your mic's working. It's the applicant's mic that doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. How do we get their attention?
They can hear us. We can't hear them.
Okay, if the applicant can hear this, can you please unmute yourself?
And maybe send them a chat message or something, Steve?
What did you say, Harlan?
There's a way to send a message in a chat that maybe that'll work.
Okay, I see a message from Mr. Bragan. It says, just a minute, I will use our phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh. Claudia, it looks like they're looking for a telephone number. Do we have one we can give them?
Yes, we do.
It's on the notice.
Yeah.
Claudia, there is a phone number which has New York City area code. I don't know if that would give them better reception. There's also
Let me
toll
see.
free, but I'm not sure that's going to be very good reception.
The telephone on the hand of the notice, there is a number of, looks like 1-312-626-6799.
Yeah, there are a number of phone numbers that you can use to dial in, or an iPhone one tap.
I have called this the.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hold on one second. Let me listen. We can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
1 second. I'm gonna mute you.
Okay.
Sorry. Is that better?
No.
Do you want to call the numbers on the list on your notice? Or even on the website? All right, I'm gonna hang up.
Claudia, I think that I don't know, I can't unmute them, but I think we heard him for a minute with the earbuds.
No, that was through the phone.
It was? Are you
Yes.
sure?
Yeah, it's the phone.
He wasn't holding the phone though.
It was through my phone.
But
in the
can you,
office.
can you unmute him just for the heck of
I
it?
tried already and it's not letting me. I
Oh.
asked to unmute. There's a little blue button on the top.
Yeah,
That's all I can do.
I know. Okay, just checking. I couldn't do it either.
Hey, Steve, since we can see from the drawings what they expect to do, and Eric laid out what they are asking for, can't we go ahead?
No,
and
it's
discuss it?
obviously it's a very simple situation, but I think we have to hear testimony. Let's try this and see if we can get it to work. No, you're right. It's very simple, but I still think we need to hear from the applicant and see if any of the members have any questions.
He's unmuted now.
Excuse me, this is the court reporter.
Yeah.
Yes.
If he has internet on his telephone, he can click on the link from his phone and we can see him. We can see him from that way.
No, that's a good idea. Claudia, are you able, do you have a cell number for Mr. Burgon?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me call him again.
Yeah.
They can hear us talking to them.
Can you hear us?
Yes, they can hear us.
Can you link to the site from your phone?
It's coming.
I got somebody else here. There is.
It's him.
Hello? Hello?
You're on.
We can see you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Ah, finally. Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay, just 1 minute now.
Okay, if you can sort of present your proposed
And
addition.
Mr. Burgon, I just need to swear you in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Karen, I think he has to turn off the
He has to mute one device.
computer. Use the cell phone seems to work.
Uh-oh. And now he's muted.
Which one? Okay, attends. Do you hear me now? Hello?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
we can hear you.
Okay.
Mr.
So-
Burgon, before you start speaking, I need you to swear or affirm your testimony will be truthful.
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
So I'd like to share my screen. Okay. Tell me if you can see my screen, please.
There we go. Yes.
Okay. So good evening, and my apologies for the connection issues. I will provide you some context to what was presented already by Derek Bridger. Okay, so we are speaking about a twin house which was built around 1910. Actually, we were the first house on our street on Aiken Avenue. It was probably before there was any zoning regulations. Our lot is not complying. It's 30 feet wide versus 60 feet required. And we also have non-compliances regarding setbacks. The smaller side yard setback is 0 feet, as we are a twin house and we are adjacent to our neighbors. And our combined side yard setback is 6.66 feet versus 20 feet, mainly due to the fact that, again, we are adjacent to the next, to our neighbors. For the most part, the house is 20 feet wide, so rather small due to the size of the lot. We are living in this house for now 13 years, and we are going to talk to you about our kitchen, which is in our family a very big component in the way we live. We like to cook, and we do a lot of family gathering in the kitchen. So just exhibit 1, I just took an extract to show the way the lot looks like with the house. So the lot is represented here with the twin houses next to each other, which are symmetrical. We have a common walk to a porch through stairs, and then everybody has their own door. We live on the right-hand side of the lot, and there is a walkway alongside the house to go in the backyard. You can also notice this bay window here on the side. So this is a picture of the house. You can see our side. Unfortunately, there is a tree that's hiding the door in the middle of the house, and you can see the bay window. I'm showing you this picture because it will be important later to explain what the impact of our addition would be. This is the picture of our side yard. There are lots of trees in the back, so we can't see the neighbors in the back. There are lots of trees on the right-hand side. This is 11 Aiken Avenue, so we can't see, or we have a screening of our neighbors on the right-hand side. And we also have a fence on the left-hand side, and that is separating us from our neighbors. And we have planted some trees so that we continue with this vegetation screening. This is the back of the house. So you see the full house, but obviously we only own half of the house, the left side on this picture. You can see, as it was mentioned by Derek Bridger, you can see we have a stairwell, stairs that are going up to a back door, and that is in the back of the house. And on just next to the fence, there is also a Bilco that's not very easy to see here. Please note the vegetation on the left-hand side. So our project is to renovate our kitchen. We want to make it more modern and more functional, which this will involve moving a bathroom, and we would like to make an addition on the side of the house, which is very small, 19 square feet. And in addition to the kitchen expansion, we would like to do a balcony, which will be fully aligned with the kitchen, and which will extend the current landing, which is very small today. So you can see the plans. This is on the left-hand side, you have the existing plan. On the right-hand side, you have what we would like to do. So you can see on the left-hand side, you see this bathroom. There is also a partition here in the middle of our kitchen, which is blocking the way between the front of the kitchen and the back of the kitchen. And so what we want to do is really have an open floor. We are going to take some walls down. We are going to move the bathroom on the inside of the house. And what we would like to do is to build this small addition here, which is delineated by a red wall. So you can see that with this addition, we will simply align the wall in the back of the kitchen to the wall in the front of the kitchen. So it's really, we are just aligning the walls. Now, this is going to enable us to really have an open floor plan with an island, and we are going to have, we would like to have 2 doors to get to the outside for aesthetics and for symmetry. And this would go on the balcony, which is depicted here with a stairwell. So you can see we would replace the small stairs and the small landing by a slightly larger balcony, so that we have a continuity with the kitchen plan. So you can see the 3D rendering. What is important to see is on the right-hand side, our inspiration is coming from a Brooklyn brownstone. So we would like to have large windows, and the windows would overlook the balcony and the garden, obviously. So here is the stairwell, and just next to it you have the Bilco. So in order for us to do this, as is depicted on one of the exhibits, Exhibit 1, we would have we need to ask for 2 variances. The first one is linked to the combined side yard setback, which already we are not complying with, as explained at the beginning. And we would go from a setback of 11.42 feet at the level of the kitchen, which would be reduced to 9.66 feet, which is exactly the combined setback on the front of the kitchen, and which is much less than the setback at the level of the bay window. Then regarding the porch, which we want to align with the rest of the kitchen, we would need to ask for a setback.
Oliver, we can't hear you.
Still going, but we can't hear him. Oliver, can you hear us?
I just sent him a message in the chat saying that we can't hear him.
Thank you.
I didn't see it come through on the chat. Is someone able to text him?
I sent it privately.
Privately.
On the chat.
Oh, okay, got it.
So I can't access his screen.
Claudia, do you have a cell number for him? Yes. Here it is. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
What do you want me to tell him?
Well, maybe, has the board heard enough? Do you have questions for Mr. Burgon? Maybe what we can do is we can send them via chat if anybody has any. And we can just confirm with him that he's completed his presentation. It looks as if he has. But if we can confirm that. Oh, okay, so we do have neighbors who are interested, okay. Oh, all right.
Can you hear us?
Who are you asking?
Asking her. She can hear us. They can hear us. They just can't, we can't hear them. So if you have a question, you could ask them.
Well, we can't, I mean, we can't see.
Can't get an answer, but you can ask the question.
I have a question in regards to the setback, but I think we should make sure the applicant can hear us.
Claudia, perhaps Mr. Burgon could just call back in on his cell. I realize he's still trying to present some stuff, but perhaps he can just explain it over the phone.
Sure.
Please call 609.
372.
Hi, we can hear you.
Okay. So, am I still sharing?
I can't hear.
Are you still seeing? Are you seeing my my screen? Hello. Hello.
Yes, we're seeing your screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I just want to finish presenting my the positive and the negatives. So that's one message. So the positives are that of course for us to have a more modern and functional kitchen.
Excuse me, this is the court reporter. I'm having a hard time hearing.
I can't hear him at all either.
Hello, Claudia?
Yes, I hear you, sir.
But do they hear me?
There's an echo and I can't make out the words.
Here, do you hear me better? Hello?
Lisa, can you hear him?
Yeah, there is an echo.
I don't know how to change that.
He had his computer audio on and I think he turned it off and it seems to reduce the echo. Maybe you could just speak louder into the telephone.
Well, try it again, sir. Sir.
Yes.
Can you try it again?
Yes. Just one minute. No. Okay.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're hearing, you hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. So on the positives, we want to, of course, we are going to have a more modern and functional kitchen. We are going to be able also to camouflage the Bilco. And what we intend to do is to make sure that the renovation is going to be at par with the caliber of the other houses next to us. So we have engaged an experienced architect and a kitchen designer to make sure that we are going to have good quality work and good architecture. Now, on the negative side, we believe that there is really little. As I have shown on the pictures previously, you can't see anything from the street actually, because the expansion is going to be of the kitchen is going to be aligned with the rest of the walls of the house. And anyway, there is the bay window that's masking the back of our house. And I mentioned it several times. We have vegetation on the right-hand side and the left-hand side and in the back of the house. So our neighbors would not be impacted either. So overall, we really believe that our extension is very, very small. And it's really so modest that it does not impact the intent of the ordinances and the regulations that we need to comply to. I'm finished with my presentation.
Okay, do any of the board members have any questions of the applicant?
No.
Derek, I had one question. Is the setback to the bay window or to the side of the house, the minimum setback?
For the variance? I'm not sure what, I understand.
To the side of the house is 9'8" existing, and that's what the setback of the new addition will be.
Yes.
But the setback, the closest point of the house to the side yard is, looks like 6'6".
Yes, sir.
So that's the existing setback.
Yeah, and house was before zoning. I mean, this was pre-existing.
No, I understand that, but the issue is on the application. We're basically not asking, he's not asking for a 9-foot 8 setback. He's asking for the existing 6-foot plus setback, right?
I go with what's on the plans.
So, I mean, in essence, the answer is yes, sir. I mean, the setback is defined by the bay window, and the extension that we are building is really much inside of our.
Exactly. It's matching the side of the house, but the setback variance is to the bay, which is the smaller of the side yards. Is that right, Derek?
No, the setback variance would be to the new non-compliance, which is the 9-foot 6'6".
Oh, to the new non-compliance. Okay. All right. Okay. Question I have. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Yeah, there is. Well, let's go to the public, see if there's anybody who wants to speak on behalf of this application. Anybody out there, Claudia?
No, nobody's raising their hand.
Okay.
Is that going to be an exhibit,
I'm sorry.
Karen?
I'm sorry, say that again, Claudia?
Would that be exhibit A1?
Well, I know that you posted exhibits on the website, correct?
He posted the pictures, but this is a new presentation. I don't have that.
All right, well then let's call the whole thing Exhibit A1.
Okay. So, sir, can you email me your presentation, please?
Yes, of course. I'm doing it now. Okay.
Are we in executive session now, Steve?
No, we're still in the public comment period here. But Claudia, there's no one from the public?
Wait 1 second. Somebody just came up.
We really, we're the neighbors next door who own 9 and 11 Aiken Avenue, Jennifer Gagan and
Robert Finnegan.
And we just really attended to be in support. Our house is the closest house on the side to the house where they're doing this work. So we just wanted to express our support for the project.
I think you have to be sworn in.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If both of you swear affirm your testimony this evening, if you give any, will be truthful.
It will.
Thank you.
So that we
Repeat
really
what
just
you
came.
said.
Very good.
Luckily, they're not asking to become borough technologists.
That's it. You're forced into it. All right, so
Give them this variant so they don't try for that one.
so you're in support of the application.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. All right. All right. So thank you very much. Nice refrigerator. Okay. So is there anyone else that would like to speak? Claudia?
Nope, there's nobody else. There's somebody on the phone line, but there's no message.
Okay. All right. So we'll close the public portion. Mr. Brigard, do you have anything you want to add before we go into executive session?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so let's go into executive session. Do any board members have any comments or questions, or would they like to make, anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve it. It's a very, very modest addition and no negative impacts that I see.
I second.
Any discussion? Okay, Claudia?
I'm sorry, Ms. Chen, you're an alternate?
Ah, okay.
And I'll move, and if someone will second me, please.
Wait a minute, Claudia. Tonight? Okay, all right, never mind. I take that back.
If Harlan just made the motion, then I'll give the second, Stephen Schreiber.
You get that?
Any comments? Should I call it?
No, I think you,
Yeah,
I think there were
Harlan
no
Harlan
comments,
called to
Claudia.
approve, and Stephen chimed in saying he was seconding.
Yeah, there's no questions on the motion. Okay, Claudia?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Coulson?
Yes.
Mr. Davidge?
Yes.
Mr. Floyd?
Yes.
Mrs. Shriver?
Yes.
Mr. Tannenbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Valvanis?
Yes.
Thank you. It's
Okay.
approved.
Thank you very much. All right, that's, unless, Karen, do you have any comments, or is there anything we need to discuss? Derek?
No, that's it for the evening.
We do have, wait, one thing, we do have a special meeting next Wednesday evening.
Yes. And
Okay.
you should be getting your packages by Friday.
Okay.
Good night.
You know I won't
All
be
right,
there.
thank you very much, and we'll see each other next Wednesday. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Right.
Good night, thank you.
Right.
Bye.